Sometimes in life, we witness moments that challenge everything we thought we knew about the natural world. This story, which unfolded in the Montana wilderness, is about one such moment, when the rigid boundaries between wild creatures and human beings dissolved into something neither science nor policy could fully explain. It's about Tom Mitchell, a veteran ranger who thought he'd seen everything the mountains could offer, until two tiny mountain lion cubs did the impossible. They asked for help, not with words, of course, but with actions so deliberate and desperate that everyone who saw them, hardened outdoorsmen, skeptical scientists, even those who feared predators most, had to stop and reconsider what we think we know about the animals who share our world. This is their story, and it begins on an ordinary October morning that became anything but ordinary. The blood trail shouldn't have been there. Tom Mitchell stopped mid-stride, his boots crunching on frost-brittle pine needles. 30 years of tracking through these Montana mountains, and blood patterns told stories as clearly as newspaper headlines. But this one made no sense. The drops led upslope. Prey animals run downhill when wounded. They spread in a deliberate line, not the chaotic splatter of panic. Most unsettling, they were fresh, maybe 20 minutes old, but there were no tracks, none at all. He knelt, touched a drop with his gloved finger. Still tacky, the morning mist clung to the pines around him, muffling sound, limiting visibility to maybe 30 yards. His radio crackled with static, too far from base for clear reception. Another sound cut through the fog. Not quite a cry, not quite a growl. Something between desperation and plea. Tom had heard mountain lions scream, roar, hiss, and purr. This was none of those. This was new. He followed the blood trail, hand instinctively checking the tranquilizer gun on his hip. The drops led toward a cluster of ancient oaks, their trunks thick as car hoods. The sound came again, closer now, and with it a metallic rattling that made his stomach tighten. He knew that sound. Cable trap. Tom pushed through a curtain of hanging moss and stopped so suddenly he nearly fell backward. The female mountain lion lay twisted against an oak trunk, a steel cable wrapped twice around her throat. The wire had cut deep. That explained the blood. Her golden eyes tracked his movement, but she didn't struggle, couldn't struggle. The cable had been there long enough that her neck had swollen purple-black around it, and every breath came as a wet, rattling wheeze. But that wasn't what made Tom's mind rebel against what he was seeing. Two cubs, maybe 8 weeks old, sat on either side of their dying mother. They should have fled the instant they detected him. Every instinct bred into them for thousands of years should have sent them racing up the nearest tree or into the undergrowth. Instead, the smaller cub, female by the look of her, stood up on shaking legs and walked directly toward him. Tom froze. The cub stopped 3 feet away, looked him straight in the eyes, then turned and walked back to her mother. She repeated this twice more. The third time, she actually touched his boot with her paw before returning. "That's not possible," Tom heard himself whisper. The male cub did something even more incomprehensible. He picked up a stick in his tiny jaws, carried it to Tom, and dropped it at his feet. Then he sat down and looked up, waiting. When Tom didn't move, the cub picked up the stick again, carried it closer, actually pushing it against Tom's boot. The mother lion made that sound again, that desperate, pleading note. Her eyes weren't looking at Tom with the usual predator assessment. She was looking at her cubs, then at him, then back at her cubs. The meaning was as clear as if she'd spoken, "Please." Tom's hands shook as he reached for his radio. The protocol was absolute document and report. Don't intervene. Let nature take its course. Approaching an injured predator with cubs present was suicide. Everything about this situation screamed danger, but the female cub was now rubbing against his leg like a house cat. The male had brought another stick, piling it with the first like an offering. Their mother's breathing was getting shallower, more labored. The steel cable had been there at least 2 days, judging by the swelling, professional grade, the kind poachers used, not local ranchers. This wasn't defense. This was commerce. Someone wanted her pelt. Tom pulled out his phone, started recording. His voice, when he found it, was steady, despite the surreal scene. October 3rd, 0700 hours. GPS coordinates follow. Adult female mountain lion, cable snare trap, severe lacerations and swelling around neck. 2 cubs present, approximately 8 weeks. He paused, then added the impossible part. Cubs are actively soliciting human intervention. The male cub had moved to Tom's other leg, pressing against him. Both cubs were trembling, not from fear, Tom realized, but from exhaustion and dehydration. They hadn't left their mother's side for days, hadn't hunted, hadn't drunk. They were dying with her. That's when Tom saw the scar. 3 parallel lines across the mother's left shoulder, old and silver against her tawny coat. His mind flew back 15 years. Another October morning, a logging accident, an orphaned cub with a shoulder wound he'd stitched himself during 3 weeks of illegal rehabilitation. He'd named her Luna for the crescent moon marking on her chest. Tom dropped to his knees, staring. There, faded but unmistakable beneath the blood and swelling, was the pale crescent. His hands went numb. Luna, the cub he'd saved, nursed and released at Avalanche Creek. She'd survived, thrived, had cubs of her own, and now she was dying in front of him. Luna's eyes met his, and in them he saw something impossible. Recognition. She knew him. After 15 years, she knew him. That's why the cubs weren't running. She had, somehow, communicated to them that this particular human was safe. Luna, he breathed. Her ear twitched at the name. The female cub climbed into his lap, just climbed right up and settled there, her tiny body radiating heat through his jacket. The male cub tugged at his sleeve with needle teeth, pulling toward Luna. Tom's radio crackled to life. Tom, you there? Got a weird GPS alert from your location? It was Maggie Chin, the veterinarian. She monitored emergency frequencies from home, old habit from her California clinic days. Maggie, I need you here. Now, bring everything. Surgical kit, bolt cutters, antibiotics, everything. What's the situation? Tom looked at Luna, at her cubs who had somehow decided to trust him with their mother's life, at the blood pooling in dark, rust-colored mud beneath her throat. The situation is impossible, he said. But it's happening anyway. 20 minutes, Maggie responded as they waited. The male cub brought more sticks, creating a small pile at Tom's feet. The female cub curled tighter in his lap, pressing her face against his stomach. Luna's breathing grew more labored, each exhale a bubble of blood at the corner of her mouth. Tom found himself talking to her, low and constant. Remember that first week, Luna? You wouldn't eat. Thought I'd lose you. Then you stole that ham sandwich right out of my hand. Sarah laughed so hard she cried. Said you had good taste. She'd made that sandwich for me. Luna's eyes stayed on his face. The cubs seemed to understand the tone, if not the words, settling into stillness. The forest around them had gone eerily quiet. No bird calls, no squirrel chatter, as if the mountain itself held its breath, waiting to see if the impossible could become possible, if trust could bridge the ancient gulf between predator and man, if memory and desperation could rewrite the rules of the wild. Tom heard Maggie's Jeep grinding up the old logging road. Help was coming. But as he looked at Luna's fading eyes and felt her cub's absolute faith in him, he knew they'd already crossed into uncharted territory. Whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. The Jeep's engine died with a metallic tick. Doors slammed. Footsteps crunched through undergrowth. 2 sets. Tom didn't look up from Luna's eyes. The female cub in his lap tensed, claws pricking through his jacket. Holy mother of... Maggie's voice cut off. Her medical bag hit the ground with a thud. That's Jake Morrison behind you with the camera, Tom said, still not looking away from Luna. Tell him to turn it off. Are you kidding? Jake's voice. Too loud. This is... Tom's hand shot out, covered the lens. Off. The camera whirred down. Maggie was already moving, dropping to her knees beside Luna. Her hands hovered over the embedded cable, not touching. The metal had disappeared into swollen flesh, purple-black skin bulging around it, 2 inches deep, maybe more. Infection spreading. See the red streaks running down toward her chest. She's got maybe an hour before septic shock. The male cub abandoned his stick pile, pressed against his mother's hip. Luna's eye rolled toward him, blinked slow. Her chest hitched, stopped, resumed with a wet gurgle. Sedation, Tom asked. Risky. Her blood pressure's already bottoming out. Maggie pulled on surgical gloves. They snapped too loud in the morning air. But if she thrashes when I cut... Luna lifted her head an inch, looked directly at Maggie, held the gaze, lowered her head back down, slow, deliberate. Did she just... Jake started. Shut up, Tom and Maggie said together. Maggie loaded the dart gun, calculated dosage by eye. Quarter dose, just enough to dull the pain, not enough to stop her heart, maybe. The dart flew with a soft puff. Luna didn't flinch when it hit her shoulder. The cubs watched the orange tuft of the dart rise and fall with their mother's breathing. The female cub in Tom's lap made a sound, not quite mew, not quite whine. Tom counted Luna's breaths. 20 per minute, 19, 18, at 15. Her eyelids drooped, but didn't close. Now, Maggie said. She positioned the bolt cutters at the point where cable met tree. Metal scraped against metal. The cable was thicker than it looked, commercial grade, meant for bears. Maggie's forearms corded with effort. The handles bent. A crack, not the cable. One handle of the bolt cutters had split. Jake, there's another pair in my truck. Green toolbox. Jake ran. His designer boots slipped on pine needles. Tom heard him fall. Curse. Keep running. Luna's breathing dropped to 12 per minute. The red streaks Maggie had pointed out were spreading, visible rivers under her fur. The female cub crawled higher on Tom's chest, nose pressed to his throat. Her tiny heartbeat hammered against his ribs, twice as fast as normal. Jake crashed back through the brush, carrying the entire toolbox. Maggie grabbed the heavy-duty cutters, 20 pounds of industrial steel. She positioned them, leaned her full weight into the handles. The cable parted with a sound like a piano string breaking, but it didn't release. Tom saw why, immediately. The cable had twisted twice around Luna's neck, and when cut, the tension had caused it to constrict rather than loosen. Luna's breathing stopped entirely. Tom's hands moved without thought. He lifted the female cub from his lap, set her on the ground. She mewed, tried to climb back. He was already beside Luna, fingers searching through matted fur for the cable's edge. There, metal sharp against his fingertip. He worked his finger under, pulled. The cable didn't budge, too tight. Blood from Luna's neck made everything slick. His finger slipped, nail tearing. "Wire cutters," he said. Maggie was already pressing them into his hand, smaller than bolt cutters, precise. He slid the tip under the cable near Luna's throat. One wrong angle would pierce her jugular. The cubs pressed against his thigh. Their mother's chest was still. Snip. The cable loosened a fraction. Not enough. He cut again, closer to where it crossed itself. The metal parted. He grabbed both ends, unwound. First loop came free. Luna's throat expanded slightly. Second loop stuck where dried blood had glued fur to metal. "Water," Tom said. Jake fumbled with a bottle from Maggie's bag. Tom poured it over the cable, working his fingers between metal and flesh. The water turned pink, then red. The cable moved. He unwound the final loop. Luna's chest stayed motionless. Maggie's hands replaced his, checking for pulse at the femoral artery. "Nothing." Tom positioned his palms on Luna's ribs, behind her front legs, compressed. The body felt wrong, too still, too heavy. He pumped steadily, under his hands, ribs flexed. 30 compressions. Maggie sealed Luna's muzzle with both hands, breathed into her nostrils. The chest rose. More compressions. The male cub brought another stick, dropped it on Tom's boot, as if the ritual might help. The female cub stood on hind legs, paws on Luna's shoulder, making that not mew, not whine sound continuously. Maggie breathed for Luna again. Tom resumed compressions. His shoulders burned. Sweat ran into his eyes. Count of 30, count of 30, count of Luna's body convulsed. A cough, wet and harsh. Blood sprayed from her mouth across Tom's jacket. Another cough. Her chest rose on its own. Fell. Rose again. "She's back," Maggie said. The cubs immediately pushed past Tom, pressing their faces into their mother's fur. Luna's eye opened, found them, blinked, slow. Her breathing was rough but steady. 15 per minute. 16. Maggie was already cleaning the neck wound. The cable had carved a trench 2 fingers deep, the width of Tom's thumb, 3/4 around Luna's throat. White showed through in places. Trachea or vertebrae, Tom couldn't tell. The smell hit him. Sweet rot of infection mixed with copper blood and pine sap from his torn knuckles. "Hold her head up," Maggie said. "I need to irrigate." Tom cradled Luna's skull, heavier than he expected, maybe 40 pounds, just the head. Her eye rolled toward him. The pupil was huge, black-eating gold, but aware, tracking. Maggie poured saline into the wound. Pus flowed out, yellow-green. The cubs backed away from the smell. Jake gagged, turned, vomited into the ferns. The camera kept recording from where he'd set it on a stump. "How long was the wire there?" Tom asked. 3 days, minimum, maybe 4. See how the swelling extends down into the chest. That's lymphatic involvement. Maggie injected antibiotics directly into the wound. Luna didn't flinch. She should be screaming. This has to hurt like... "She knows," Tom said. "She knows we're helping." Maggie looked at him sharp, then at the cubs, who had crept back and were now grooming their mother's ears with tiny pink tongues. "That's not possible." "Look at her shoulder." Maggie looked, saw the 3 parallel scars. Her hands stopped moving. "Is that?" October 2009. Logging crew disturbed a den. Mother killed by falling tree. 1 survivor. "You're telling me this is the same? Luna? I called her Luna." Maggie stared at the lion. Luna's eye was still on Tom. Maggie returned to working, movement sharper now. "If she remembers you after 15 years? Then the cubs aren't running because she told them not to." The female cub had climbed onto Luna's hip, curled there like she was trying to share body heat. Her eyes were closed, but Tom could see her tiny ribs vibrating with that continuous, almost purr. The male sat by his mother's head, one paw touching her ear. "They haven't eaten," Tom said. "Look at them." Under their fuzzy coats, both cubs were skeletal. hip bones sharp, spine visible like a string of beads. They'd stayed with their dying mother for days, starving, waiting. Maggie pulled a packet of emergency glucose gel from her kit. "It's not meat, but—" The male cub licked it from her finger immediately. No hesitation. The female needed coaxing, but eventually took some. Their rough tongues were dry as sandpaper. "Tom," Maggie's voice had changed. "Look at this." She was examining Luna's right front paw. Between the pads, worked deep into the flesh, was a metal tag, weathered, but readable, FL 2009-47. Tom's chest went tight. His tag, his identification number from the illegal rehabilitation 15 years ago. Luna had carried it all this time, embedded in her paw like a thorn that became part of her. "She never forgot," he said. Jake had recovered, was filming again over Tom's shoulder. "What does that mean?" "It means," Maggie said, loading another syringe. "We're in uncharted territory." Luna's breathing steadied at 20 per minute. The antibiotics were working, or adrenaline, or pure will. She tried to lift her head. Tom supported her, helped her rise to a sphinx position. The cubs immediately crawled under her chin, pressing against her chest. That's when Tom heard the engines, multiple vehicles, coming up the logging road fast. He recognized the lead engine's knock, Bob Harrison's truck, the chief ranger. "Someone told him," Jake said. "The GPS alert. Keep filming," Tom said. "Whatever happens next, keep that camera running." The engine stopped 50 yards away. Doors slammed. Footsteps. At least 4 people. Tom could hear Bob's voice, and another he recognized with a drop in his stomach, Linda Patterson, the rancher who'd lost cattle to cats. Who carried her grandfather's rifle and his grudge? Luna heard them too. Her muscles tensed under Tom's hands. The cubs pressed tighter against her. Tom saw the first figure push through the trees. Bob Harrison, face already red with anger or exertion. Behind him, Linda Patterson carrying a rifle, not pointing it, not yet, but carrying it ready. Bob stopped 10 feet away, took in the scene. His eyes went from Luna to the cubs to Tom's bloody hands to the camera. "Tom," he said, "what have you done?" Bob's boots crushed pine needles with each step forward. 2 rangers flanked him, Peterson and Marks, both young, both avoiding eye contact with Tom. Linda Patterson stayed back, rifle across her chest, barrel pointed at the ground. "For now, I asked you a question," Bob said. The female cub crawled deeper under Luna's chin. Her brother stood, wobbling on legs no thicker than Tom's thumb, and hissed. The sound was almost nothing, like air leaking from a tire. "I'm doing my job," Tom said. "Your job," Bob's face darkened further. "Your job is to observe and report, not—" He gestured at the medical supplies. "The blood, Jake's camera, not whatever this is." Luna tried to stand. Her front legs straightened, but her haunches wouldn't follow. She fell, chin hitting dirt. The cubs mewed. Tom steadied her, helped her back to the sphinx position. Under his palms, her muscles trembled continuously. "She's the cat from 2009, Maggie said. "The orphan Tom rehabilitated." Bob's mouth opened, closed. "That's not—" "Look at the tag." Tom lifted Luna's paw. The metal caught morning light. FL 2009-40, my number, my case. Linda stepped forward. "You're telling me this cat remembered you after 15 years? "Her cubs came to me," Tom said. "They asked for help. Animals don't ask." Jake turned the camera screen toward them. On the tiny display, the female cub walking to Tom, touching his boot, walking back, the male bringing sticks, both cubs deliberate, repeated movements. Bob watched the replay. His jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. "Turn it off." It's live streaming, Jake said. Has been for 20 minutes. Tom felt the blood drain from his face. You said you turned it off. I turned off the record function. Jake shrugged, but my followers needed to see this. Bob pulled out his phone. His face went white. 2 million views already. Comments coming in from... He scrolled. BBC, National Geographic, CNN. Delete it, Linda said. Can't delete a live stream, Jake said. It's out there. Peterson, the younger ranger, was looking at his own phone. Sir, there's more. Someone clipped the part where the cubs... Were they... He turned the screen. The female cub climbing into Tom's lap. The male pulling his sleeve. 6 million views on that one. Luna made a sound, not quite growl, not quite moan. Blood seeped fresh from her neck wound. The movement had torn something. Maggie pressed gauze to the flow, but it soaked through immediately. She needs a surgical suite, Maggie said. Now, or she dies. The nearest wildlife hospital is in Missoula, Bob said. 3 hours? She won't make 3 hours. Then that's that. Linda's voice was flat. Nature takes its course. Tom looked at her. There's nothing natural about a poacher's snare. You don't know it was poachers. Commercial cable, professional grade. No rancher uses. Maybe they do now. Linda's hand shifted on the rifle. Maybe they have to. When the government won't control predators. The male cub had abandoned his aggressive stance, was now licking his mother's face where tears ran from her eyes. Tom hadn't known lions cried. The salt trail darkened her fur. I can stabilize her, Maggie said. Set up a field surgery in the ranger station. It's 20 minutes away. Absolutely not, Bob said. Moving her requires permits. Federal transport authorization. That's 3 days minimum. She doesn't have 3 days. She doesn't have 3 hours. Bob's phone rang. He answered, listened, face getting redder. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understand, but... He held the phone away from his ear, even from 5 feet. Tom could hear shouting, Yes, sir. He hung up. That was the governor's office. Apparently, his daughter saw the video. She's 7. She's crying. He wants to know what we're doing to save the... Bob's voice went high, mocking. The brave mama kitty. So, Tom asked. So the director is driving up from Helena. The senator is calling. And somehow... Bob turned to Jake. Somehow there's a hashtag. Save Luna and Cubs. It's the #1 trend in the country. Jake grinned. Actually, it's global now. Japan loves it. Linda's knuckles went white on the rifle stock. This is insane. They're wild animals. Dangerous predators. They're babies, Maggie said. Look at them. The cubs were grooming each other now, the female cleaning blood from her brother's face with mechanical persistence. Their bodies shook with exhaustion, but they kept grooming. Comfort behavior. Tom had seen it in domestic cats, never in wild lions. Peterson, Bob said, get the truck. We're transporting them to the station. Sir, without permits. I'll handle the paperwork. Bob's voice was tired. Tom, you're suspended pending investigation. Fine. I mean it. Gun and badge. Tom unclipped his badge, handed it over, kept the tranquilizer gun. Bob noticed, but didn't push it. Linda stepped between them and the trail. You can't do this. I'm the chief ranger, and I'm a taxpayer, a voter, a rancher who's lost 6 calves to cats this year. She looked at Luna, at the cubs. You save them. You're choosing animals over people. Come, ma'am, Peterson said. Please, step aside. My grandfather was killed by a mountain lion. Everyone stopped. Linda's voice had gone quiet, dangerous. 1952. He was checking fences. It took him from behind, crushed his skull. My grandmother found pieces of scalp hanging from a tree branch. She looked at Tom. So you'll forgive me if I don't see the romance in this situation. The female cub chose that moment to walk toward Linda, not aggressive, just curious. She sat down 3 feet from Linda's boots, head tilted, studying this new human. Linda raised the rifle. Tom moved, but Maggie was faster. Her hand pushed the barrel up. Just as Linda's finger touched the trigger, the shot split the morning. Birds exploded from trees. The cub scattered, the male behind Luna, the female straight to Tom, clawing up his leg to press against his chest. "You just discharged a firearm in the presence of federal officers," Bob said, voice steady. "Peterson, take her weapon." "I wasn't going to—" Linda started. "Yes," Maggie said. "You were—" Peterson took the rifle. Linda's hands shook, not fear. Tom realized rage. "You don't know what you're doing," she said. "You save them, raise them, make them trust people. Then one day, some hiker surprises them. Some kid plays too rough, and they react like what they are. Killers. And someone dies. Like your grandfather," Tom said. "Like my grandfather." Tom felt the female cub's heart hammering against his chest. Tiny claws dug through his shirt. "I'm sorry about your grandfather. But that was 70 years ago. Different time, different understanding. Lions don't change." "No, but our relationship with them can—" Bob's phone buzzed. He read the message, face going fat. "Tom, there's something else." He turned the screen. Someone found the rehabilitation records from 2009. On the screen, a younger Tom holding a tiny Luna, feeding her from a bottle. The photo Sarah had taken, the one he'd buried in federal files that were supposed to be sealed. "The story's evolving," Bob said. "It's not just about saving random lions anymore. It's about—" He scrolled. "Here's the headline: Ranger's 15-year-old kindness repaid by a Dank mountain lion." Tom's knees felt weak. He sat on a fallen log, the female cub still clinging to him. Luna watched, that steady gold gaze that seemed to see everything. "There's more," Bob said. "Someone leaked that Sarah, your wife, died 3 years ago. They're calling this—" He swallowed. "They're calling it your redemption story." The woods spun around Tom, Sarah's name on Bob's lips. Their private grief made public, turned into content, into clicks, into the male cub tugged his bootlace. Tom looked down. The cub had brought another stick, placed it carefully on Tom's boot, sat back, waiting. That's when Tom saw the van, white, no windows, pulling up behind Bob's truck. The door opened. A man in a suit stepped out, followed by 2 others with cameras, not phones, professional equipment. "Who called the media?" Bob asked. Jake raised his hand, grinning. "They're with me, documentary crew. We're calling it When Wild Calls. Netflix is interested." The ranger station's garage smelled like motor oil and blood. Tom held Luna's head while Maggie worked. 4 days since the rescue. The neck wound wept continuously, yellow fluid that stained the concrete floor. "She's not eating," Tom said. "I know. She'll die if—" "I know." Maggie drew another syringe of antibiotics. The needle went into Luna's shoulder. No reaction. Her gold eyes stayed fixed on something past Tom's shoulder. Maybe the wall, maybe nothing. The cubs huddled in the corner of the makeshift pen Tom had built from chain link and 2x4s. The female's left eye had swollen shut overnight, green discharge crusting the lid. The male brought her pieces of the raw venison Tom had left, pushing them toward her with his nose. She wouldn't take them. Tom's phone buzzed. "Emily, 3rd call today." He let it ring. Outside, Jake's documentary crew had set up camp. 3 RVs, a satellite truck, generators humming constantly. Bob had given up trying to make them leave. The story was too big now. 14 million followers watching, daily updates. Tom opened a package of ground venison. rolled a small ball between his fingers, approached Luna slowly. Her eye tracked him now. He held the meat to her mouth. Nothing. Pressed it against her lips. Her tongue flicked out, barely touching it, withdrew. "Come on," he whispered. "For them?" Luna's gaze shifted to her cubs, back to Tom. She opened her mouth slightly. He placed the meat on her tongue. She swallowed without chewing, one piece, then another. By the 10th piece, she was taking them from his fingers. By the 20th, her rough tongue scraped his skin. The cubs watched, the male's tail twitching. Marcus Webb pushed through the plastic sheeting they'd hung for a door. Chess night, Tom remembered. Thursday. How many Thursdays had passed? "Brought dinner," Marcus said, holding up a thermos. "Martha's chilly. Not hungry." "Wasn't asking." Marcus found 2 folding chairs, set them up, poured chili into paper cups, handed one to Tom. "Eat." The chili burned Tom's throat. First hot food in, he couldn't remember. The female cub limped toward them, eyes swollen completely now, feeling her way along the fence. Tom reached through, let her sniff his fingers. She rubbed against them, purring rough. "She needs medicine," Wood said. "So give it to her," Maggie said from where she was cleaning Luna's wound. Tom found the antibiotic drops, opened the pen door. The female cub didn't run. She sat, head tilted up, as if she knew. Tom held her jaw gentle, squeezed drops into the infected eye. She squeaked, but didn't pull away. The male cub appeared at Tom's knee, carrying a pine cone in his mouth. Dropped it at Tom's feet. Tom picked it up, threw it across the pen. The cub chased it, brought it back. Again. "He's playing fetch," Marcus said, voice quiet. "That's not. Lions don't. These do." Day 10. Luna stood for the first time, wobbly but standing. The cubs pressed against her legs, making sounds Tom had never heard from wildcats, something between purr and whine. Luna lowered her head, groomed them with mechanical persistence. Day 15. The female cub's eye opened, cloudy but functioning. She blinked at Tom, then climbed into his lap while he changed Luna's bandages. Her brother, jealous, pushed his way up too, 20 pounds of cubs on his legs, purring loud enough that Jake's crew picked it up from outside. "Mr. Mitchell," a woman's voice. Tom looked up. Professional clothes, tablet in hand, Seattle accent. "Jennifer Cross, National Geographic. We'd like to discuss exclusive rights." "No." "We're prepared to offer." "No." She left. Another would come tomorrow. Day 18. Emily stood in the doorway, hand on her belly, not showing yet. But the gesture was protective, maternal. "Dad." Tom was teaching the male cub to stalk, using a feather tied to fishing line. The cub crouched, wiggled his haunches, pounced, missed. The female watched from Luna's side, learning. "Emily." She entered, stopped 6 feet away. "You missed Sunday dinner." "I called." "No, you texted." The male cub noticed Emily, abandoned the feather, approached slow, cautious, sniffed her boots. Emily froze. "He won't hurt you," Tom said. "I know." Her voice was tight. "That's what scares me." The cub sat at Emily's feet, looked up. She knelt slowly. He sniffed her hand, then rubbed against it. Emily's breath caught. "Mom would have—" She stopped. "What?" "She would have done exactly what you're doing." Luna made a sound, not aggressive, soft, questioning. Emily looked at the lion, 30 feet away, watching her son interact with a human stranger. "She's beautiful," Emily said. "She's dying." "No." Emily stood, walked to Luna's pen. The lion didn't move. "She's choosing to live, for them, like Mom did. Stayed longer than her body wanted for us." Tom's chest went tight. The female cub limped to Emily, pressed against the fence. Emily reached through, touched fur soft as cotton. Day 22. Town meeting. Mountain Gospel Church. Every pew filled. Tom sat in back, Bob beside him. The cubs were with Luna, Maggie watching them. Linda Patterson stood at the podium. Behind her, a projection screen. Photos appeared. Calves torn open, sheep with throats gone, a dog's collar. Bloodied. $6,000 in livestock this year, she said. That's my loss alone. Multiply that by every rancher in the county. Murmurs through the crowd. Head nods. Now we're hand-feeding them, teaching them humans mean food. What happens when they're grown, when they're 200 pounds of muscle and claw? More photos. A child's playground, a school bus stop, a hiking trail. Your children play here, wait here, walk here. Linda's voice steady, reasonable. Do you want them sharing space with animals we've taught not to fear us? DeMarcus Webb stood, May I? Linda stepped aside. Marcus connected his laptop to the projector. Different images. Luna as a cub. The rehabilitation from 15 years ago. Luna now, grooming her cubs, the cubs playing with pine cones. These aren't random animals, Marcus said. Luna remembered Tom after 15 years. Her cubs came to humans for help. We're witnessing something unprecedented, the beginning of a new relationship between species. That's fantasy, someone called out. It's evolution, Marcus replied. Domestication starts with individuals who are slightly less fearful, slightly more willing to interact. These cubs might carry genetic markers for killing our grandchildren, Linda interrupted. The room erupted. Shouting from both sides, Bob stood, whistled, sharp. Silence. Votes in 1 week, he said. County commission decides. Until then, Tom continues the rehabilitation under supervision. People filed out, grumbling. Linda stopped at Tom's pew. My grandfather's rifle is in my truck. Had it restored last year, though. Still works. She leaned close. One dead child. Tom, that's all it'll take, and it'll be your fault. At day 28, had Jake editing footage on his laptop, Tom feeding Luna. She took meat from his hand now, eager. The cubs had gained 5 pounds each. Their ribs no longer showed. Look at this, Jake said, turning the screen. Tom watched himself, teaching the cubs to stalk. His face was different than he remembered, softer. The female cub jumped on his back. He laughed. Tom couldn't remember the last time he'd laughed. That's why people care, Jake said. You're healing each other. It's not about me. No. Jake pulled up comments. Thousands. People sharing stories of loss, of unexpected connections, of animals who'd saved them or they'd saved. You gave them permission to hope. Day 35. University of Montana research team. 3 professors. 4 graduate students. Equipment Tom didn't recognize. They took blood, saliva, hair, filmed every interaction. Measured the cubs' reactions to strangers versus Tom. The cortisol levels, one student said, staring at her tablet. When you're present, their stress hormones drop by 60%. What about when I'm not? They spike, higher than normal wild levels. They're bonded to you. Tom looked at the cubs, play fighting in their pen. In 8 months, they'd weigh 100 pounds. In 2 years, full grown. What then, day 41? Emily visiting again, sitting beside Tom while he cleaned Luna's wound, almost healed now, pink scar tissue replacing rot. I'm pregnant, Emily said. Tom's hands stopped. I know. You told me. No, I'm showing now. She took his hand, placed it on her belly, the slightest curve. It's a boy. Tom's throat closed. Sarah would have. I know. Emily leaned against his shoulder. I'm thinking of naming him Thomas, if that's okay. Luna watched them, gold eyes steady. The female cub climbed into Emily's lap, purring. The male brought his pine cone, dropped it at her feet, an offering. Day 45. The vote was tomorrow. Tom sat in the pen, cubs asleep against his legs, Luna's head resting on his knee. Her breathing was strong now, clear, the wound just a silver line across her throat. His phone rang. "Bob." "Tom, you need to know something. Linda's nephew, the senator's kid, he's been talking to Jake, offering him money for the footage, all of it, including stuff that hasn't been released. He's been recording everything, even private moments, even," Bob paused, "even you crying that night after Emily left, when you thought you were alone." Tom's blood went cold. He looked toward Jake's trailer. The lights were on. Through the window, he could see Jake at his computer. Editing on the screen Tom 3 nights ago, holding the female cub while she seized from the infection, Tom's face twisted with grief, tears running into his beard. Audio clear. "Please? Not again. Please?" The female cub stirred against Tom's leg, made a questioning sound. He stroked her head, automatic. On Jake's screen, the video continued, Tom in that moment of raw grief, begging a universe that had already taken Sarah not to take this small wild thing too. Jake was adding music, dramatic strings, making it into content. Tom stood. The cubs protested, crawling after him. Luna lifted her head, watched him walk toward Jake's trailer. Her eyes reflected the light from the window. 2 gold coins in the dark. His hand was on the trailer door handle when he heard Jake's voice through the thin walls. 50,000 for everything, including the breakdown footage. A pause. "Deal. I'll upload tonight, before the vote." The trailer door gave under Tom's shoulder. Jake spun in his chair, laptop sliding off the desk. It hit the floor, screen cracking, the video still playing, Tom's grief on a spiderweb of broken LCD. "What the?" Tom's hand closed on Jake's collar, lifted him from the chair. Jake's feet kicked, searching for floor. "Tom, wait. 50,000. Tom's voice came out flat. "For my wife's memory." Jake's hands clawed at Tom's fist. "It's just content." The trailer wall shook when Jake hit it. Framed certificates fell. Jake slid down, gasping. Tom reached for him again. A sound stopped him, high, sharp, not quite scream, not quite mew. Tom turned. Through the window, Maggie running toward the pen, the female cub on her side, legs rigid, foam at her mouth. Tom left Jake crumpled on the floor, sprinted across gravel. The pen gate clanged against chain link as he threw it open. The female cub's body jerked, spine arched backward. Her eyes rolled white. "Seizure," Maggie said, already loading a syringe. The eye infection, it spread to the brain. Tom dropped to his knees, pulled the cub into his lap. She weighed nothing. Bones and fur and violent shaking. The male cub pressed against Tom's thigh, making continuous distress calls. Luna paced the pen's edge, a sound coming from her throat Tom had never heard. Low, continuous, primal. Maggie injected something into the cub's haunch. The seizure continued. 30 seconds, 40. The cub's temperature burned through Tom's shirt. "Hospital?" as Tom asked. 3 hours to Missoula. She doesn't have 3 hours. Maggie checked the cub's eyes with a pen light. Pupils blown. Temperatures at least 106, maybe 107. The seizure stopped. The cub went limp. Tom felt for heartbeat. There, rapid, irregular. Her breathing was wet, labored, pink foam at her nostrils. "Meningitis," Maggie said. "Brain swelling, without surgery. Do it here. I don't have equipment. Marcus does. The university lab." Tom pulled out his phone, called. Marcus answered on the second ring. "Bring everything, surgical tools, anesthesia, whatever you can grab. 20 minutes or she dies." Tom heard Marcus running before the call ended. The cub seized again. This time, blood came with the foam. Tom held her tight enough to keep her from hurting herself, loose enough not to restrict breathing. Luna crashed against the fence, roaring. The sound shook through Tom's chest. Jake appeared with his camera. Tom didn't tell him to stop. Let him film. Let everyone see what saving something actually looked like. 15 minutes. Marcus's truck skidded on gravel. He and 2 grad students carried boxes. Surgical instruments in sterile packaging. Portable anesthesia unit from the veterinary teaching lab. Technically theft. Marcus didn't hesitate. "Garage," Maggie ordered. They carried everything inside. Tom's kitchen table became an operating platform. Plastic sheets on the floor, work lights from the hardware store created harsh shadows. The female cub's breath came in gasps now, spaces between them getting longer. "Hold her head," Maggie said. "Absolutely still. I have to go through the ear canal to drain the pressure." Tom cradled the cub's skull, so small in his hands. Her good eye was open but unfocused. The infected eye had swollen to the size of a golf ball, purple-red, first incision behind the ear, blood and pus immediately. The smell hit, sweet rot that made Jake gag. He kept filming. "Pressure's too high," Maggie said. "She's going into arrest." The cub's body went rigid, then loose, no breath, no heartbeat under Tom's fingers. "Compressions," Maggie ordered. Tom's hands covered the cub's entire chest. He pressed carefully. Too hard would crush ribs. Too soft wouldn't restart the heart. 1, 2, 3, 4. The body stayed limp. "Emily." Her voice behind him. When had she arrived? "Dad, let me." She took over compressions. Younger hands, steadier. Tom held the cub's head, watched his daughter work. Her face set with determination Sarah would have recognized. Maggie injected adrenaline directly into the heart. Nothing. Again, the cub's body jerked. A cough. Another. Heartbeat under Emily's hands. "She's back," Emily said. Outside the garage, Luna's roar had become something else. A keening. The male cub echoed it, higher-pitched. The sound pulled at something primitive in Tom's brain. Mother and child calling across the edge of death. 2 more hours. Maggie working with tools meant for teaching, not surgery. Draining infection, removing damaged tissue. The cub flatlined again. Emily brought her back while Tom whispered into her ear. "Nonsense. Promises. Please. There's too much damage," Maggie said. "The motor cortex. Keep going. Tom, even if she survives. She might not walk. Keep going." Bob Harrison's truck pulled up outside. Tom heard doors, voices. Bob entered the garage, stopped at the scene, blood on plastic sheets. The tiny body split open, Emily's hands inside doing compressions, Tom holding the head like prayer. Bob held papers. "Tom." "Not now. Federal order. The lands need to be transferred to—" The female cub's heart stopped again. 3rd time. Tom started compressions while Emily prepared adrenaline. The cub's ribs bent under his palms. One cracked. He kept going. "Tom," Bobby said. "I'm sorry." "She's fighting," Tom said between compressions. "She wants to live." "That's not—" "Look at her." Bob looked. The cub's one good eye was open high and focused on Tom's face. Aware despite everything, her body broken but something inside refusing to quit. The heart started again. Weak, but there. "1 more hour," Maggie said. "Let me close." Bob set the papers on a shelf. "I'm retiring in the morning. Someone else can enforce this." He left. Tom heard his truck drive away. Final sutures. The female cub's head was shaved. Drainage tubes behind both ears. She looked alien, fragile, but breathing. Heart steady at last. They carried her to the pen, laid her beside Luna. The mother lion sniffed her cub careful, then began grooming around the surgical sites. The male cub curled against his sister, purring so hard his whole body vibrated. "Will she walk?" Emily asked. "I don't know," Maggie said. "The infection was in the motor cortex for at least a week. There's damage." Tom watched the female cub try to move her back legs. Nothing. She pulled herself forward with her front paws, back end dragging, made it 2 feet before exhausting. Luna picked her up by the scruff, carried her back, continued grooming. Jake uploaded the surgery footage, raw, unedited. The title, "The Cost of Compassion." 20 million views in 3 hours. Comments flooded in. Some called Tom a hero. Others called him selfish, prolonging suffering. The conservation community split. Veterinary ethics boards opened investigations. Day 66. Morning. The female cub hadn't moved her back legs. Tom carried her to water, to food, to relieve herself. She watched him with that one good eye, trusting. Luna allowed it, seemed to understand he was helping. The male cub brought his sister the pine cone, dropped it by her head. She couldn't play. He lay beside her, grooming her face. Emily found Tom sitting outside the pen at dawn, watching them. "The vote's today," she said. "I know. If they say the cubs have to go, they go, Dad, but not to a rescue center." Tom stood. "I know where Jake keeps his backup drives, all the footage, including what he hasn't shown." Emily studied his face. "What are you planning?" Tom looked at the female cub, dragging herself to her mother using only front legs. Luna patient, encouraging with soft sounds. "I'm going to show them the truth, all of it." His phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. "Tom, you need to see this. Jake's footage from last night, the unedited version." Attached was a video file. Tom opened it. On screen, the female cub, middle of the night, infrared camera. She was standing, shaking, unsteady, but standing on all 4 legs. She took a step, fell, stood again. Another step. The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m., 4 hours ago. Tom looked at the pen. The female cub was lying down, dragging herself as before. But there, in the dirt, barely visible tiny paw prints. 4 of them, in a line. She could walk. She was hiding it. But why? Tom kept the video to himself, watched it 6 more times on Marcus's phone. The female cub Hope. The internet had named her taking those shaking steps at 3:40 a.m., clear as daylight in the infrared, then at 4:15 a.m. Jake approaching the pen, Hope immediately dropping, dragging herself away from the fence. She knew, somehow. She knew who to trust and who not to. The county commission meeting started at 9, 7 officials behind a raised platform in the town hall. 200 people packed into rows of metal chairs, standing room only in back, news crews along both walls. Linda Patterson sat front row, left side. Ranchers flanked her. Tom sat front row, right side. Emily beside him, Marcus on the other side. The cubs were with Luna and Maggie at the station. Commissioner Hayes, retired judge, cleared his throat into the microphone. Feedback shrieked. "We're here to determine the fate of 3 mountain lions currently held at Ranger Station 7. Jake stood from the middle section, camera in hand. "I have new footage, critical to the decision. We've seen your videos, Mr. Morrison. Not this one." Jake connected his laptop to the projection system. "This is from yesterday morning." On screen, Tom, holding Hope while she seized, but edited. The seizure looped 3 times, making it seem endless. Tom's face twisted in close-up, audio enhanced to emphasize Hope's distressed breathing. "This cub is suffering," Jake narrated. "Mr. Mitchell refuses to acknowledge it. His attachment has clouded his judgment." Tom's hands clenched. Emily grabbed his wrist. More footage. Hope dragging herself across the pen. Slowed down to emphasize the lifeless legs. Cut to Tom carrying her. Cut to Luna pacing, roaring edited to seem aggressive rather than maternal. "These animals are deteriorating in captivity," Jake continued. "The mother shows signs of cage psychosis. The paralyzed cub can't survive in the wild. The male is developing abnormal attachments to humans. The male cub on screen, following Tom. But Jake had added ominous music, edited the cub's play into something that looked like stalking. Furthermore, Jake clicked to another video. Mr. Mitchell's mental state is concerning. Tom Kent's holding hope during surgery, but chopped up, reorganized, made to look unhinged rather than desperate. Words rearranged. Please? Not again. Sarah. Made to sound like he was confusing the cub with his dead wife. Murmurs through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Poor man's lost it." Commissioner Hayes leaned forward. "Mr. Mitchell, do you have a response?" Tom stood, pulled out a USB drive. "I have footage, too." "We don't need more. You need this." Tom plugged in the drive. Found the file, unedited, time-stamped, Hope at 3:47 a.m., standing, walking, 4 clear steps before falling, standing again, gasps from the crowd. "She's healing," Tom said. "She hides it during the day because—" He looked at Jake. "Because she knows who's watching." Jake's face went red. "That's impossible. Animals don't—" "This one does." Tom played another clip, Jake approaching at 4:15 a.m. Hope immediately dropping, dragging herself away. Jake leaving. Hope standing again at 4:23 a.m. "She's faking," someone said from the back. "The cub is faking paralysis." Linda Patterson stood. "This changes nothing. If anything, it proves they're too intelligent, too adaptable. That makes them more dangerous, not less. Or it makes them more capable of coexistence," Marcus said, standing. "We're witnessing unprecedented behavior, the beginning of something new, the beginning of deaths," Linda shot back. "My grandfather—" "We know about your grandfather." Emily stood now too, hand on her pregnant belly. 1952. Different world. These cubs were born into a world with humans. They're learning to navigate it. Commissioner Hayes raised his hand for silence. "We'll vote. All in favor of allowing Mr. Mitchell to continue rehabilitation." 2 hands raised. All in favor of immediate transfer to licensed facility. 4 hands. Motion carries. The lions will be transferred tomorrow morning. The room erupted. Tom felt the sound wash over him without hearing it. Emily's hand on his arm. Marcus saying something. Jake filming his face. Tom walked out. Nobody tried to stop him. At the station, Maggie had the radio on. News already broadcasting the decision. Commission voted to remove the lions known as Luna and her cubs from Tom Mitchell's care. Hope was dragging herself to water. Tom entered the pen, picked her up. She weighed maybe 18 pounds now, up from 12. He carried her to the water bowl. She drank, then pressed her face against his neck. The male cub brought the pine cone. Tom threw it. The game continued. Luna approached. Tom sat, letting her investigate. She sniffed his face, his hands, made that soft chuffing sound, the greeting from 15 years ago. Her tongue, rough as sandpaper, licked the tears he hadn't known were falling. "Mr. Mitchell." Tom turned. A woman in a federal wildlife uniform. Behind her, 2 more officers. A van with the reinforced cages visible through open doors. "The transfer's been moved up," she said. "We're taking them now. The vote said tomorrow. Governor's office wants this resolved. Tonight's news cycle, not tomorrow's." Tom looked at Hope in his arms. She could walk. He could show them the video, prove she was improving. But what then? Another facility, another cage. People who didn't know her signals, her fears, that she liked her meat warm to body temperature, that she slept better when the male cub groomed her ears. "I need to carry her," Tom said. "She won't go with strangers." The officer nodded. Tom stood, Hope tight against his chest. The male cub followed, confused. Luna knew something was wrong. She positioned herself between Tom and the van, not aggressive, but blocking. "Ma'am," Tom said to her. "Please." Luna studied his face, stepped aside. Tom placed Hope in the cage. She immediately tried to climb out, front paws reaching through bars. Tom touched her pads soft, pink, too small for what they'd need to become. The officer closed the cage door. The male cub had to be caught. He ran from the officers, hid behind Tom's legs. Tom picked him up. The cub's claws dug through Tom's shirt, drawing blood. Tom pried him loose, placed him in the second cage. The cub screamed, high, desperate. Luna walked into the third cage on her own, dignified, but her eyes never left Tom's face. The van doors closed, engine started. Tura. Tom stood in the empty pen as taillights disappeared inside the garage. Hope's blood still stained the concrete. The surgical tools Marcus had stolen sat in their boxes. The pine cone lay abandoned by the water bowl. Tom picked it up, sat on the ground. The sun was setting, painting the mountains orange-red. Somewhere, a van carried 3 lions to a place that would evaluate them, categorize them, determine their fate based on policies written by people who'd never seen Hope fake paralysis to protect herself, never seen Chance the male cub bring gifts, never heard Luna's greeting chuff from across 15 years. Emily found him after dark, sat beside him, said nothing. Her hand found his. "She could walk," Tom said. "I know. She was protecting herself." "I know. They won't understand that. They'll think she's manipulative." "Dangerous." Emily squeezed his hand. In the distance, coyotes howled. Tom listened for an answering call that wouldn't come. His phone buzzed. Unknown number, text message. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm Dr. Rodriguez at Hooved Animal Rescue Center. We received 3 cats. There's something you should know. The female cub she's walking, fully, like she was never paralyzed." "What did you do?" Before Tom could respond, another text. "Also, the male won't eat, won't play, just sits at the cage door with something in his mouth, looks like a pine cone. Then the mother hasn't moved since arrival, won't eat, won't drink. Is this normal?" Tom stood. Emily looked up at him. "Dad, they're dying." Tom said, "Without me, they're dying." Tom's truck tires screamed on the corner. Emily gripped the door handle. Marcus in the back seat, laptop open, fingers flying across keys. "There," Marcus said. "Jake Morrison doesn't exist. The real name's Jason Morse, failed influencer, fraud conviction in California, selling fake cancer treatment videos." Tom's foot pressed harder on the gas. The Hooved Animal Rescue Center was 3 hours away. Luna hadn't eaten in 18 hours. Chance wouldn't move. Hope was walking the miracle they'd worked for, but alone. "Dad, slow down." Tom didn't. The speedometer hit 90. Empty highway stretched ahead, lit by a slice of moon. Marcus's phone rang. He answered, listened, face changing. Linda Patterson's nephew just withdrew from the governor's race. He paused. Someone leaked documents. The wire that caught Luna. Purchased with his campaign credit card. Emily turned in her seat. "What?" "There's more. Property records show Linda's fence extends 2 miles into federal land. Every trap on that fence is illegal. She's been poaching on government property for 3 years. Tom's hands tightened on the wheel. The engine whined. 95, 100. "Pull over," Emily said. "Dad, pull over. Let me drive." Tom kept going, but his phone buzzed. Then again. Emily grabbed it from the cup holder. "It's Dr. Rodriguez. She says," Emily read, "went quiet. Luna collapsed. They're putting her on fluids." Tom pulled over. Not gradual. Stood on the brakes. The truck slid sideways, stopped into gravel. He was out before Emily could speak, vomiting into roadside brush. 15 years ago, Sarah had collapsed. Fluids hadn't helped. Emily's hand on his back. "She's not Mom. She trusted me." Tom spit bile. "I let them take her. We'll get them back." How the commission voted. The commission voted based on Jake's lies. Marcus stood beside them, holding his laptop, screen showing files. I hacked his cloud storage. Look, videos, dozens, unedited. Hope walking not just once, but every night for a week, getting stronger. Chance playing with enrichment toys Marcus had brought. Luna allowing Tom to examine her fully healed neck. But also Jake on the phone. Audio clear? 50,000 to make the Ranger look crazy easy? Give me 2 days. Another video, Jake meeting Linda's nephew. Money changing hands. The nephew saying, "My aunt needs those cats gone. They're making her look bad before the election." Jake's voice, "I can make them look sick. Dangerous. Whatever you need." "Download everything," Tom said. "Already did." And Marcus smiled cold. "Already sent it to every major news outlet. CNN has it. Fox, beep." "The governor's office." Emily was typing on her phone. "I'm posting the surgery footage, the real version, with Jake trying to bribe you to let Hope die for better content." Tom's phone exploded with calls, unknown numbers. He ignored them all, except one, Bob Harrison. "Tom, where are you?" "Highway 83, going to get them." "Turn around. Come back." "They're dying without—" "I know. The governor knows. The entire internet knows. Emily's post has 40 million views in an hour. The rescue center's website crashed from death threats." "Turn around. Bob. They're bringing them back. The governor ordered it. Feds are stepping in. Luna and Cubs return to your care pending federal review." "Tom, you won." Tom sat on the gravel. Emily knelt beside him. "Dad, they're coming home." 3 hours later, Tom waited in the pen, dawn breaking over mountains. The van's engine grew louder. Stopped. Doors opened. De Rodriguez emerged first. "Mr. Mitchell, I need to apologize." Tom pushed past her. The first cage, Chance, pine cone still in mouth. Tom opened it. The cub launched into his arms, clawing up to his shoulder, pressing tight against his neck. The pine cone dropped. Tom caught it. Second cage, Hope. Walking to the door, walking. Her gait was uneven, slight drag to the left rear leg, but she was walking. Tom opened the door. She climbed him like a tree, settled against his chest, purring so hard she shook. Third cage, Luna, lying flat, eyes closed, IV line in her leg. She stopped responding an hour ago. De Rodriguez said, "We kept her hydrated, but..." Tom entered the cage. Luna's breathing was shallow. He lay beside her, face near hers. "I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm sorry." Luna's eye opened, just one, focused on him, her tongue, dry as paper, touched his hand. "Let's get her inside." They carried Luna to the garage. Same table where Hope had nearly died. Now, hives for the mother. Tom sat on the floor, Luna's head in his lap, the cubs curled against her side. She wouldn't eat. Tom tried everything. Venison warmed to body temperature, rabbit, even chicken from his own refrigerator. Luna turned away from all of it. Emily arrived with supplies, Marcus with the research team, Maggie with more IVs. Nothing worked. Luna was shutting down. Day 73. Jason's real identity was everywhere. Federal agents arrested him at the Canadian border. Linda Patterson in custody for poaching, trespassing, fraud, her nephew's campaign dead. But Tom barely noticed. Luna had lost to 20 pounds. Her ribs showed like bars. Tom hadn't left her side. Slept on the garage floor. The cubs stayed too. Hope walking circles around her mother, Chance grooming Luna's face constantly. "She's given up," Maggie said. "Sometimes animals just decide." "No, Tom. Sarah didn't give up, fought until the last second. Luna's the same. She just needs—" Tom stopped, looked at the cubs, at their eyes watching him. "She needs to know they'll be okay without her." Tom stood, found the fishing pole, attached the feather, began the stalking game. Chance watched, then joined, pouncing, missing, trying again. Hope struggled with her weak leg but kept attempting. Tom praised them, loud enough for Luna to hear. Luna's head lifted slightly, watching. Tom pulled out the venison, showed the cubs how to tear it properly, how to find the tender parts. They copied him. Hope managed, despite her wobbling. Chance shared with his sister. Luna watched. Tom built them a small shelter in the pen's corner, showed them how to arrange pine needles for warmth. Both cubs helped, carrying materials in their mouths. When finished, they curled inside together, content. Luna stood, shaking, weak, but standing. She walked to the shelter, sniffed her cubs. They came out, pressed against her. Luna looked at Tom, made the chuffing sound their greeting. Then she ate. First piece of meat in 3 days, then another. Tom's phone rang, unknown number. He almost ignored it, but Emily grabbed it, answered. Her face went white. She held the phone out. "Dad, it's the President's Chief of Staff." Tom took the phone. "Hello. Mr. Mitchell, the President has been following your story. She'd like to discuss establishing a new protocol for human-wildlife interaction. Based on your work, we're calling it the Luna Doctrine." Tom looked at Luna, eating steadily now, at Hope, walking despite everything, at Chance, loyal beyond instinct. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm here. There's one condition. The program needs a success story. Luna and her cubs need to be released, prove they can survive wild despite their bonds with humans. Can you do that?" Tom watched Hope stumble, catch herself, keep walking. Wild release, with her injury, meant likely death. But keeping her meant condemning her to lifelong captivity. "When?" he asked. "Spring? 6 months to prepare them, 6 months. To teach Hope to hunt with a damaged leg, to prepare Chance to protect his sister, to ready Luna for freedom after she'd learned to trust humans. Mr. Mitchell, can you do it?" The federal commissioner's boots left mud tracks on the garage floor. Day 90, outside. April rain hammered the metal roof. Hope tested her weight on the damaged leg, lifted it, set it down. Each placement deliberate. "Remarkable recovery," the commissioner said. Karen Walsh, former wildlife biologist. She watched Hope stalk the mechanical deer Tom had bought with his retirement savings. "The leg, 20% weakness," Maggie said. "Permanent nerve damage, but she's compensating." Hope crouched. The mechanical deer moved on its track. She waited. Tom held the remote control, varying the speed. The deer stopped to graze. Hope crept forward, belly low. Her bad leg trembled. She shifted weight to the other 3. The pounce came fast. Hope's jaws found the neck padding exactly where the jugular would be. "Clean kill position." Chance watched from beside Luna, learning. "And she learned this despite the disability?" Walsh asked. "Because of it," Tom said. "She had to develop new techniques," Walsh wrote in her notebook. The male, Tom activated a second mechanical target, rabbit size, faster. Chance circled wide, using the garage walls to corner it. His approach was different than Hope's power over stealth. When he struck, the force knocked the device off its track. Luna watched everything. Sometimes she'd demonstrate, using Tom's jacket as prey, teaching them to work together. Hope as the ambush, Chance as the force. "The commission's decision," Walsh said. "Conditional release. They can remain under your supervision until fully mature. Then they must demonstrate wild viability. When? 1 year, next spring? Walsh looked at the cubs, now sharing the mechanical deer, pulling at opposite ends. Can they survive? Honestly. Tom watched Hope adjust her grip to compensate for the weak leg. Yes. 6 months later, October again, the leaves turned gold red, matching Luna's eyes in afternoon light. Hope weighed 60 pounds, Chance 75. Teenagers in lion years. Tom opened the pen at dawn. Luna emerged first, cautious. The cubs followed, first time on free ground since their rescue. Marcus had set up cameras throughout the territory. Tom could monitor without interfering. Luna led her cubs to Avalanche Creek, the same stretch where Tom had released her 15 years ago. She remembered. Hope struggled with the rocky terrain, fell twice. Each time, Chance waited. The third time, he positioned himself so she could lean against him while navigating the worst sections. They hunted, failed again. But the 8th night, Tom found remains, clean kill. Deer, taken near water. The camera showed the Hope driving it toward Chance. Team hunting. Snow came early. November brought 2 feet. Hope's tracks showed her limp worsening and cold. Some mornings, she couldn't put weight on the leg at all. But she adapted, learned to hunt from trees, dropping onto prey. Chance learned to drive game toward her positions. Luna taught them to cache meat, to mark territory, to avoid human camps critical for their survival. Sometimes Tom would find them watching him from ridgelines, never approaching, but watching. Emily visited in December, 7 months pregnant. She stood at the observation platform Tom had built, watching the lions through binoculars. That's them, 3 shapes on distant rocks, Luna grooming Hope's ears. Chance sprawled beside them, tail twitching. They're free, Emily said. Not yet, still my responsibility. Dad. Emily turned to him. They already chose freedom. They just visit sometimes. Release day, April 15th. 1 year exactly since the rescue. Federal officials, media, conservation groups gathered at the ranger station. Tom ignored them all. He opened the gate to full wilderness. No fence between the lions and infinite territory. Luna understood. She'd understood for weeks, Tom realized. The way she'd been scent marking further from the station, teaching cubs longer routes. Luna walked through the gate, paused, turned back to Tom. She approached him, slow, deliberate. Tom knelt. Luna did something unprecedented in documented wildlife behavior. She took his sleeve gently in her teeth, tugged, released, took it again, pulled toward the wilderness. She's inviting you, Maggie whispered. Tom stood, followed Luna 10 yards past the gate. She released his sleeve, looked at him, made the chuffing sound their greeting that had become their goodbye. Hope limped over, pressed her head against Tom's leg just once. Chance brought a stick. Their old game dropped it at Tom's feet. Then both cubs followed their mother, 20 yards. 50. Luna looked back once. Gold eyes held his. They disappeared into tree line. Tom found the first gift 2 weeks later, deer haunch at the station door, precisely placed. The choice portions, heart and liver, untouched. Luna's thank you. 1 year later, Tom led education groups to the observation platform. 15 people today, including a class from Helena Elementary. Will we see them? A boy asked. Maybe. They waited. Tom told them about Hope's injury, her adaptation, about Chance's loyalty, about Luna's memory. The children listened, pressed to binoculars. There, ridge opposite, 3 shapes. Luna, silver creeping into her muzzle. Hope, moving smooth despite the permanent limp. Chance, magnificent at full size, and she has babies. A girl pointed. 2 cubs, maybe 3 months old. One played with something. Tom used his scope. A pine cone. Grandpa, Grandpa. Look, Thomas Jr., 2 years old, in Emily's arms. Tom's grandson reached toward the lions, laughing. Luna's head turned toward the sound. Even at 500 yards, her eyes found them. Tom raised his hand. Slow wave. Luna stood, called once the sound carried across the valley. Key, not wild, not tame. Something between. 5 years later, the call came at midnight. Hiker lost, injured, below freezing. Search and rescue deployed at dawn. Tom volunteered, though officially retired. They found him in a canyon, broken leg, hypothermic. Lions, he kept saying. 3 lions. The tracks told the story. 3 sets circling the injured man all night, facing outward. Guard formation. When coyotes approached, their tracks visible too, the lions had charged, driven them off, returned to their circle. They protected me, the hiker said. The one with the limp, she lay against my back, kept me warm. Tom studied the tracks, recognized Hope's distinctive drag mark, Chance's heavy print, Luna's measured pace. They'd remembered not just Tom, but what he'd taught them, that humans could need help, that sometimes the strong protect the weak. The rescue helicopter lifted off. Tom stayed, examining the tracks. Fresh deer kill 50 yards away. The lions had been feeding when they heard the hikers' cries. They'd left their meal to stand guard. Movement in trees? Tom turned. Luna stood at forest edge, older now, face fully silver, Hope beside her, the limp just part of who she was. Chance, scarred from territorial battles but strong. Tom touched his chest over his heart, then pointed to them. Luna chuffed once. The sound echoed. They melted back into forest. That night, Tom wrote in his journal, Sarah believed love transcends death. Luna taught me it transcends species. We save each other, over and over, in ways we never see coming. His phone rang. Emily, Dad, did you see the news? The hiker's story is everywhere. I saw. He's saying guardian angels saved him. Tom looked out of his window. 3 sets of eyes reflected his porch light from the tree line. Watching, protecting still. Maybe they did, he said. The eyes blinked once, together. Then darkness. But Tom knew they were there. They were always there. Love that real doesn't leave. It just keeps circling back, keeping watch. Sometimes I walk past that old ranger station where Tom Mitchell saved Luna and her cubs. The building's empty now, turned into a memorial. But if you stand quiet at dusk, you might see them, shadows moving through the trees, watching over the valley they've protected for 20 years now. Tom passed last winter, peaceful in his sleep. Emily swears she saw 3 lions at his funeral, sitting on the ridge. I believe her, because love, like Tom showed, doesn't die. It lives in every person who chooses compassion over fear, in every hand extended across the divide between human and wild. That's Tom's real legacy, teaching us that we're all connected, all capable of saving each other. Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction inspired by wildlife conservation themes, created solely for entertainment purposes. It does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence, harmful behavior, or inappropriate interaction with wild animals. All characters and events are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, living or deceased, or actual events is purely coincidental. Always maintain safe distances from wildlife and follow local regulations regarding wild animal encounters.